Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Coffee Break Live Update. And it is Tuesday, the 21st of July, and the sun is about to move into the sign of Leo. So I'm going to wait for people to arrive because I know everybody is busy. It's been busy. And hang on here. Oh, wow, we got all kinds of people showing up. All right. So maybe I should get on with things. All right. Today's episode 21, is the third of the three great myths that I've been discussing, or sharing, more accurately. The first one was about power, the second one was about truth, and this one is about, you guessed it, L-O-V-E, love. Seems kind of anachronous or weird or whatever to be talking about this topic considering everything that's been going on in the world. But, you know, at the core of everything, there's love somewhere. Maybe not in some of the manifestations we see and experience, and in the terms of the way we want to experience love, the way we're familiar with experiencing love. But be that as it may, it's important to recognize the symbols and signs and words of love that we can focus on at this time. So I'd like to begin with the, about an hour ago I posted a video, which is a clip from, I think from the third Star Wars film, which was the Revenge of the Sith, and that was the one when Anakin Skywalker was having a conversation with Yoda and telling him that he was very afraid of losing, well, he didn't mention Padme's name, but in essence he was afraid of her dying, okay, because she was pregnant secretly and all the rest of it. Anyway, there's all this intrigue, there's all this personal intrigue going on, and a Jedi should never marry, much less have a girlfriend, because they take vows of celibacy. Anyway, Yoda's advice to him, because of his fear of loss, was to let go of everything he feared to lose. Otherwise, it could... I didn't realize I didn't have the mic on. Hope you could all hear. Perk up and let me know if you can't hear. He couldn't let go. And the advice from Yoda was to let go of everything he feared to lose, otherwise would lead him down the path to the dark side, to attachment, which leads to jealousy, which leads to fear, which leads to, you never know where it's going to go. Don't we all? All the great stories, all the great love stories in the history of humanity, Romeo and Juliet, Osiris and Isis, all of these, even the, we're coming up tomorrow on the Catholic feast day of Mary Magdalene and Jesus. I mean, that's been bantied around ever since Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and then Dan Brown's book. But another thing I'd want to share here is some information again from Tony Stubbs' book, the Ascension Handbook, and I'm just going to paraphrase some of the points he makes. And now, keep in mind that he's not speaking, Tony's not speaking, he's channeling this information from another being. I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, the myth of love. The great myth of love is that you can love someone, something, or even yourself. Now, that may sound really anachronistic considering all of the things that have been out there in the last 25 years in self-help circles and New Age and, Tantra and everything else. No one can love another. You cannot love yourself or anyone else. Why? Because love is not a doing, it's an allowing. I used to think of it more of as a state of consciousness, a state of being, and he sort of backs that up here. He said, the very energy from which this universe is built is infused with a certain quality, a joy of being, an acceptance of the right of all things to be, and a delight in the expressions of all things as they enjoy their right to be. This was expressed to me once by a friend of mine when I was living back in Oregon, as she had a little kind of reminder thing that she posted up on the refrigerator, and one of the things that stuck out from that list of items was, I celebrate the right of all beings and all the choices they make and whatever their lives would be. So in other words, it was sort of an allowing, that the whole core of love is allowing things. So he goes on to say, all beings are of the source, have a divine right to experience and express their divinity, and all beings have a right to enjoy the expressions of others, because all beings are really one, but cleverly disguised as separate, to look separate. So joy and delight in the expression of yourself and others is a wonderful experience in what he calls love. However, you cannot do joy or delight. You can only allow it to sweep through you like any other emotion. And this emotion is not conditional on what other beings are actually doing. Makes sense? It's based on knowing and experiencing the divinity in them, seeing their divinity. If someone you know is in a foul mood, for example, they're still expressing their divinity, even though that expression doesn't exactly turn you on. So love isn't something you do, it's a response in you to a particular frequency of energy flowing in, through, and around you. Sounds like the Force. Hello, Yoda. Many things can deaden you to a relatively subtle energy of love. Fear, for example, will prevent you from sensing it, will distort what little you do sense. Fear is not the opposite of love. Sorry, all you Course in Miracles fans. It is the defense gatekeeper and simply won't allow you to sense the high frequency in your fields of love. So fear is locked in your belief system or your opinions about reality, and has nothing to do with reality itself. I found that quite helpful to revisit this. This is after 25 years. I read this book 25 years ago. Love is allowing yourself to sense the energy as it relates to you, others, and the universe in general. Now, how do you allow this to happen? You begin by dropping your fears that you have any separation from spirit, or being able to unable to cope with life, or being worse or better than anyone else. Once you see yourself and others as vast, multidimensional beings squeezed into tiny little bodies, these fears drop away. Well, maybe not all at once, but anyway, that's the idea. So many times when you hear one person say to another, I love you, they really mean, I'm afraid and need you as my security blanket. Or one person in a relationship will have sex with a third person, and the other person will say something like, how could you? I thought you loved me. What, I ask you, this is the author saying that, has seeing the divinity in someone else got to do with the exclusive rights to someone else's body? What's really happening is that the angry partner feels insecure. If he or she could see the divinity in themselves and their partner, the probable response might be, was it good? But please see all this as perfect, because taking separation this far has required your utmost ingenuity. So love is relaxing into your true nature. You can't really get hurt by opening up to this energy. Sure, other folks operating from fear may give you a hard time, and it goes on from there. So that's enough of that. So really, I think the myth has to do with having to look at the nature of how we do love, how we express it, how we interact with other people from a loving space, or not. I think a lot of our love, or what we see as love, is based on some sort of fear. It's either a fear of loss, not getting our needs met, fear of insecurity, either of self or the relationships. And I'm speaking in the plural here. It could be your partner, it could be your family, it could be your peer group or your co-workers, it could be anybody. But underpinning all that is the fear of loss of something that you deem to be important. In recent years, it's come down to, broken attachment theory, or attachment theory to, not falling in love with, not being loved by your mother and your father. A friend of mine recently wrote a kind of online book called The Two Great Lies of Marriage and Monogamy. And he listed some very interesting stats around the nature of love in a one-on-one sense. Why is it that so many powerful, beautiful women cannot find lasting and deep partnership? Why is it the average relationship only lasts 2.9 years? Why are divorce rates above 50%? Why is it that around 20% of those that continue in such marriages sexless and unfulfilling? So the two great lies, or lies which seem to guarantee that all your relationships with men as a woman will be painful, short-lived, dramatic, and ultimately unfulfilling, is that there is one man out there or one woman out there who will fulfill you and make you happy. The second is that enforced sexual monogamy is the only way to have happy, fulfilling relationships. I think this is what Tony was referring to as an opinion about reality. I'm not advocating people go out and become non-monogamous or polyamorous or however you want to think about that. But I'm trying to illustrate that the stats don't support our model of reality, or our belief or our opinion around reality, in so much as reinforcing something that was put into place anthropologically speaking, historically speaking, thousands of years ago, to one, guarantee the knowledge around the lineage of progeny, i.e. parentage, and also to pass property from one family generation to another. And the other operative that was developed around that time was to, of course, control women. Women became property in that era. The Greeks were excellent at setting all this up, but that's another story. So when we come down to the nature of love, what do you think? What do you feel? I think when we all have that falling in love experience, it's fantastic. Everybody says, oh yeah, you're just high on endorphins. We chemicalize everything these days. We have become so numb to the energy side of things. Where did that all go? What happened to spirit? What happened to soul? What happened to energy? What happened to resonance? So I think one of the things that the tantrics attempted to do was explore the resonance side. They looked for alchemy. The reason people are drawn to each other goes far beyond, or way beyond, what happens at a chemical level. A book called The Metaphysics of Sex by Dr. Julius Evola explored this in the 1980s. And he stated unequivocally in the first few chapters, all love, all attraction begins at the level of soul. Boom. Anything else that is added on to that is added on to that by our subconscious, our projections, our family history, our childhood experiences and memories. All those things are layered and on top of it. I think that's what Tony was calling all these walls that and things that are impediments or dams that we build to avoid the flow of the force of love, the power of love. So when you think of spiritual figures like Jesus of Nazareth, or, I don't know, some of the great teachers like Krishnamurti, or, people who were quite enlightened, for lack of another term, quite enlightened, people were gravitated to them because they themselves were in a state of complete alchemical resonance with love. All right, they have removed all of the blockages to that, and therefore their light shines bright, yes, but it's their frequency, it's the alchemy that is created that draws naturally energy that is operating at one resonance or frequency up to the next level, and up to the next level, and up to the next level. How often have you ever walked into a room and somebody is angry and all of a sudden your energy starts going down the stairs? It's resonance, it's alchemy. So in one sense, our experience of love can be in the form of service, or doing kind things, or saying kind things, or supporting another when they're going through a rough time. These are all expressions or acts, but they aren't the it, all right? They are the thing that manifests in our experience as love, but they are then not in the pure domain of love itself. It's not a state of consciousness or being. It's an expression. It's a pushing out. It's a way to make it definable and experienceable in the physical realm. All very important. But what drives attraction, or what drives the thing that draws two people together who seemingly have no foundation to love or even like each other, is a bit beyond our understanding still. So the tantrics and the people, or the individuals who explored sex with the divine, sex as a vehicle to the divine, to states of higher, consciousness and altered states of consciousness, were looking for an alchemical magic that we're all looking for in one sense. All right, whether it's in our relationship with the divine, with, you know, the divine within ourselves and in all the universe. You can't separate those two things, they go together. Or we feel or express and see the divine in someone else. We express the divine in ourselves just by saying, I see you, you know, you're amazing. Why are you amazing? I don't know. We see it in the pair of eyes looking back at us across a crowded room, and all of a sudden there's that connection. Neale Donald Walsch speaks to this a great deal in the second book of Conversations with God series. He calls it spiritual energy exchange. That's SEX. And the spiritual energy exchange is something that is, as he described it, it's kind of a story form, that is something that comes from spirit to spirit within two bodies. It's like a call and answer. It's that alchemical dance. So we should never feel ashamed about feeling attracted to someone or seeing the divinity in them. What you do with it from that place, what you both do with it from that place, is up to your own spirit, you know, to your own soul. Again, I'm not advocating or telling anybody how they should behave, how they should express, how they should love. Okay, that would be absolutely silly and arrogant of me. What I'm trying to convey today is that we have a lot of myths around this core important thing, because if we truly believe everything is one, and that oneness in its essential quality is born, you know, that it's completely, what's the word, anchored in love. You know, the universe was created by love. We were created by love. We observe love coming back to us through the forms in nature, through other people, through our pets, through our books, our art, and music. These are all evidences or pointers to what love is. But to directly experience it as a field of ecstasy and joy, that's a very elusive thing for a lot of people. And if we had more of that in this world, how would it change what is going on? Love is a very high but very subtle frequency. How would it affect our health if we removed as many barriers, as many blocks, as many stumbling blocks and dams to this energy flow as we possibly could, according to what you feel is right? As long as there is agreement between two more people about how this is supposed to be experienced as a frequency, as a resonance, there is nothing wrong, okay? But are you coming from a need? Are you coming from a call for security, acknowledgement? Then it's not going to work out too well. In the long run, somebody's going to get their heart broke. In the long run, somebody's going to feel disappointment. Somebody's going to feel less than. Okay? So I really am strongly exploring or re-exploring and revisiting a lot of these things for myself, but we've had this Venus and Gemini transit going on for now better part of 2 months, and Mars in Aries, and so we get these combination of these female and male archetypes doing various things, and I think this is an important theme to get straight around, to get like it not educated, maybe uneducated about, to have it more as a daily experience in our lives. A daily devotion that's sacred. It's always sacred. As long as you do no harm to yourself or to anyone else, then I think that you have a good basis for allowing that energy to flow, and that you can love everything, and everything in turn can reflect that back to you. So play around with it. Think about some of these concepts. Sit down and really write out or think about where in your life, perhaps in certain relationships, you were coming from a less authentic place, looking for security, looking for acknowledgement, looking for getting your needs met, rather than stepping up to the plate and really allowing yourself to be filled with what is already there, which is unreal, unconditional, magical, mystical love. All right? And when you are then sort of that instrument, like a Jedi, when you are the instrument that energy flows through, anything is possible. Anything, I know is possible. I don't just believe it. So what else is going on? If you have any questions or comments around this topic, which I'm sure is probably of great interest to everybody, I mean, how can it not be? Then please leave a comment or get in touch with me to explore deeper. And, you know, we'll chat, all right? What's going on in the sky? Well, we just had that new moon opposition between the sun, the moon, and Saturn, and that is starting to wane because the sun is moving on. The moon has certainly moved on. So what about Sun in Leo? Well, it's certainly going to be a more, I think, enlightened or lighter time for the next few weeks, at least, until the sun gets deeper into the sign of Leo. Creativity will be on the front burner, and I think certain amount of, you know, more fun. Maybe things are lightening up a little bit here in the UK. In America, not so much. One of the things I did want to say to this, because there's a lot of, what I perceive is a lot of division, misunderstanding, and intolerance on social media, especially regarding what's going on with COVID and everything that's related to that. And so as a result, I am not going to, I'm not going to share anything about this. I'm not going to belabor it. I'm interested in this from a different angle, all right? But from the angle of where people are starting to name or shame or attack other people for not wearing a mask or wearing a mask or, you know, being called, you know, cruel or uncaring, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work for anybody. You know, so one has to wonder, where is this divisiveness coming from, and how do we counteract it? How do we mitigate it? I've just been speaking to that, you know, to a certain extent. But it's really important that we not get ourselves caught up with debates in this arena. I think do what you feel is right for you. Considering the situation, and be considerate and be compassionate with those who may not agree with you, or that you may not agree with them, but don't make it a battleground. It's not helpful at all. It doesn't get us any further along. Next episode, there's nothing else really to report astrologically speaking, until we get into August. That much I will say. Until we get into August, then some fireworks happen middle of the month. I should say strong energies. That's a lot safer. The main thing that I was going to bring up was that on Thursday, I'm going to return to the subject of technology and human interactions and human relating and human health. It's important to bring this into the dialogue, even though some people will construe that, oh, well, no, you're trying to equate it with being the cause of this pandemic or anything. I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions. But I think that it's an interesting thing to me that this is all coming up at this time, since the beginning of the year, actually, before this all became a big deal. The second half of the year, as I had mentioned before, and other astrologers have mentioned, is going to be quite bumpy here and there, August, October, November. And we have to be prepared, and we have to stay in our hearts. And we don't have to, but it's a good idea that a lot of things are going to be tested, because November is the election, don't forget. And right now, the ship of state of the United States feels like a rudderless Titanic, and I don't know which way it's going to go. I think anybody who thinks they know is fooling themselves. So it's really down to how you relate to the information and whether you want to participate with it or not. I try to stay away as much as possible from mass media, even alt media, because it can skew and bias your perceptions, your opinions about what reality is. So it's not about running away into the woods and shutting out the whole world, but sometimes you need to do that so that you can hear your own inner truth and you can feel less defended against that, all right? So that's another aspect of love, to removing the blocks to what your inner dialogue is with the divine. And then you can like get the clear info. You'll know what you know, rather than trying to say, well, there's two sides to every issue. Well, that's politics. That's dualism, all right? That's duality, when we're dealing with this objective thing. So are we politicians? No. Are we multidimensional beings, have a physical experience here on this planet? More likely. So I think it's about time that we start taking a different road, a higher road, with what's going on with this. Not certainly the majority will not follow it nor understand it, but that's okay for the time being. But it's also okay not to turn away or ignore what looks to be wrong and say that it isn't about anything. This is where courage and action come into play, and that is an important aspect. So to finalize for Thursday, I'm just going to focus on one thing at a time, because I'm only keeping these to 20 to 30 minutes long, so I can only focus on one thing. So I'm going to focus entirely on one particular point or object, and then we can have a talk about it, or you can think about it, or you can question, me about it, or you can relate your own experiences with it to me about it. One thing at a time, setting 4 or 5 or 15 different things. All right, this is time to get focused and really kind of hone in on the most important thing. All right, so thanks for tuning in, and I hope this has been a provocative 20 minutes, 25 minutes for you to explore and digest some of the ideas I've been relating to you from this book that's a quarter of a century old. Hard to believe, yes. And yet there's some nuggets there. There are some nuggets that people have dropped along the way that are worth exploring and going back to and re-exploring when the mood hits, all right? So again, if you are looking to or curious about getting an astrological update of what's going on with the transits to your natal biology, your natal chart, or anything in the realm of just emotional, spiritual support, then I'm available at isaacgeorge.com. Get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you again for coming along and once again making yourself visible here on Coffee Break Live Update. And appreciate you, and blessings on your journey. Bye for now. See you Thursday.